Hey, Center Spotters, I got some exciting news to impart to you about some of the rents that's been going on for the last month, going on into this month as we head into the depth of the holiday season. So bear with me. You're going to like this.
Welcome, SunSpotter. Are you ready for relevant news, reports, information, and a splash of entertaining ideas based on real estate? You have arrived in a great space. Here is C. Chambers, licensed real estate sales and content creator, helping you with the keys to open doors of new opportunities. And now, let's go get them, C. Welcome.
All right. Thank you. We're back in it. I am C. I am here. I am the guide for you in your real estate journey. Hopefully, you got to contact with me, get an appointment, and let's talk about some things. Okay. I've been rusty. I've been in the field doing what I need to do, and there's a lot of things going on. So definitely, if you give me a call or send me a message, I can get right back to you and pick my. There we go. Definitely want to do that. Listen, renting in New York City is a process. There's a lot of gears working at the same time. Of course, many are, relaxed in their way of looking through the internet. They'll go to the popular sites, apartments.com, maybe Pad Mapper if they're a little more savvy, hot pads, the works, the whole thing. Of course, Zillow and Street Easy are the top, truly as well. But you also run into a role where there's so much stuff out there meant to distract you that you can get lost in some rabbit holes where it won't pan out that you will get a great lead on an apartment. They'll guide you up to a certain point and then, you'll get overwhelmed. The first thing I do, I want to find out, what's going on with you, how far you are on your real estate journey, and then, we'll take it from where you want to live and, even why you want to live there. Very important, you know. But even when we get to those stages, the most important factors are going to come later, and it's to have your documentation together. Yes, yes, all those forms they're going to ask you for, the IDs. Um, it's basically like you're applying for school. If anybody wants to apply for college or something like that, even apply for a job, let's take it there. You want to make sure you have your documentation ready, your IDs, you know, um, any previous experiences with an apartment, have a short reference letter, three personal references, bank statements, tax forms, you know, um, usually the first two pages of the 1040, if the guarantor that you have is outside of the guarantor services, you want to make sure that they have their financials, and usually they do. Usually they do. You want to make sure that um, your occupation letter, you can get that on tap. You need to have these all in one file. So it's one stop shopping. As soon as you find something and there's something that you desire, when it's time to apply, we are 100% ready. Okay, granted. But let's talk today about where the rates are. Okay, what we're working with. I'm going to show you an article out of Brick Underground, which is a great periodical for real estate insiders. And also, this is why it's important that you do, at least talk to an agent. If you can, have a conversation, 5 or 10 minutes to see, where the market is and how you need the budget and what's really going on out here, right? It might interest you. There's off market opportunities. There's things that, you know, come on the wire early and we get it, and it's all about building those relationships and trying to get our people in as quickly as possible. That's why I say, make sure that you have your packet together. But for Brick Underground, they covered this um, article here about the raising of the rents here in Manhattan and, of course, a couple other boroughs. Let's go into it. Or let me share it first. That's wild. Told you I'm a little bit. Hold on, not the media. I'm a little bit. As soon as this kicks in, a little bit rusty here. Bear with me. And while I get into this, oh, okay, so it's taking a little longer. I actually have some slides I can go through until this comes up. Yeah. Here we go. And we're going to share this. Okay. October 3rd, the market. Manhattan median rent rose to $4,600 in October, third highest on record. All right. We have a new mayor elect coming into the picture, and this is some of the things that it's going to have to take in consideration and even combat, with promising uh, the promising statement of rent freezing. That's going to be it's a lofty goal, and you're going to have to broker a lot of relationships to see this thing coming to fruition. That's going to be interesting. Brooklyn listings spend 21 days on the market, up from 8 days in September. Okay, Queens listings jumped, so a lot of people moving to Queens, 26.3% from last year, as per the Element report. I'm going to go to a couple of paragraphs to see what's going on here. New York City rental listings gone before you can get out the door to see them. That was the experience of Zoe, a New York City newcomer from Oklahoma. Now, I've talked to a couple of people that were outside of the state and they wanted to come in here, coming to New York. And, that's what I said. You may not be able to make a person to person sitting down appointment, but even a visual, call, FaceTime, a Google Meet, you could do that just to get the great information, something that's very relevant to your search, and get the paperwork, together. So, when you do send it to me and we have established a relationship, we can move on from there. And it's quick. I will do the walkthrough and everything like that. During a whirlwind 2-day visit here to find a place, apartments would get rented out before I got off the subway to see them, she told Brick. They would be rented out before she got off the subway. Now, I wonder if she had somebody that was a representative there. Zoe experienced what a lot of renters often go through when looking for apartments in New York City, especially now. Manhattan units spent 38 days on the market last month, down 15% from October 24, when they sat 45 days. So people are picking up the pace. Okay. In Brooklyn, rental listings disappear even faster. They spent 21 days on the market in October. That was more than the 8 days seen in September and 16 in October 24. Rentals in Queens averaged 38 days on the market last month, up from 24 days a year ago. So you're seeing that a lot of these things, they're out here, and people do qualify for them. They have everything together. They're searching with the same criteria you may be searching with, but they have a competitive advantage and able to get in there quicker. Who knows what that competitive advantage is? It's usually a real estate agent. It's usually word of mouth. Okay, and most importantly, they have their packet together. They're willing to, and some people are willing to pay a little extra just to get in there. That's another story. Third highest Manhattan median rent. In October, Manhattan median rent rose over year to the third highest on record, more than double the rate of inflation. This is what we're dealing with right now. And there's also 100,000 plus rent stabilized apartments in New York City that have yet to be listed. And you have a good amount of people that are listing on their own. They are owners. So you got to consider all these things as well. When you find a price point of $2,200 in the upper east side, upper west side, Greenpoint, and things of that nature, you're going to have high demand there. Downtown Brooklyn, you're going to have a high demand. Okay, wrote Jonathan Miller, president, CEO of appraisal firm Miller Samuel. Okay, it hit 4,600, an increase of 7.1% from a year ago. So maybe Manhattan, you had the money for it at one point, and now it's kind of priced out from it. So Queens is a good option. Long Island City, Corona, Astoria. A little further out, Flushing, Kew Gardens. Okay, Brooklyn renters pay more for smaller places, smaller spaces. That's going on right now. Median rent rose annually, third highest on record. Like once again, similarly outpacing inflation, it rose to $3,850, up 6.9%. I was told today from a good guy, today's yesterday's price is not today's price. And, that was from the rapper Fat Joe. He said it a long time ago, right? And he told it to me because I had an invoice or a valuation that was for a car that I have, and it was like it was a few months ago. Saying, well, now you're here now, so of course the numbers changed. I'm like, okay, I get it, So it happens, and it's the reality that we're dealing with right now. These numbers change. You got to make sure that you're able to, maneuver around it. If you have enough for it, great. But if it's too tight for your budget, you might want to make some changes. You might want to broaden, your search, and that's just the bottom line. After this, we're going to go into the slides that I have. Queens listings jumped 26% in the Northwest region of Queens, covered by this report. Median rent rose annually by more than twice the inflation, up 7.4% at $3,598. And this is basically based on one bedroom apartments, which is more of the highest demand of all the different layouts. Okay, studios are a little bit lower, but not significantly lower. And of course, when you get into the two bedrooms, that's when you get a high demand for that. Three and above is a total different thing. Okay, well, maybe we want to go into this last paragraph because I did see. All right. Rents remain near a record high and all unit types posted year-over-year pricing gains for the 14th month. Inventory and visible vacancy stayed exceptionally low, while longer days on the market suggest higher pricing and slowing turnover. That's what Malin said. Malin um, from Cochrane Group. All right, I definitely wanted to show you that. Get out of the sharing. And now I'm going to show you a couple of the slides of the three boroughs that are the main boroughs that people want to move to. Now, this not necessarily says that Staten Island is not desirable, or the parts of the Bronx or the Bronx in entirety is not desirable, but more than often, people ask for these three boroughs, and that's Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan. Right? So let's go into that. First of all, this is going to be my new movement right here. If you see me around the city, I'm just waiting for my patches and badges and stickers and all that. It's the one in apartment movement. Hopefully you want to get into this real quick. And it and it asks a simple question. One in apartment? So talk to me. Let's get this going. Maybe you have some goal that you're into right now, or you were thinking about it for the future, or you have somebody that that might want something. This is the chance, this is the icebreaker for it. Say yes. say yes. So say, what are you into? To even, have that question around where we can identify it. Interesting stuff. Hold on. Let me get to my slideshow. Next one. Here we go. All right. Put it on the big band. Okay. What we're dealing with is the Manhattan slide. I want to say, I'm just pulling it up on, here we go. The Brooklyn slide. Pardon me. The Brooklyn slide. Okay. The Brooklyn slide. We're dealing with rented already 1,712 apartments. This is in the month of October 2025. Thanks to Find and OLR for this research. The new listings, 2,424. And we just seen not only the rise as meeting inflation, but we also see that the days of the market it's moving even quicker. Okay. So these are what's going on right now. This is what's going on right now. These numbers, those are the new listings. The active listings is 4,655. So there's potentially 4,000 apartments, 4,500 apartments out there available. That's what's going on. The active listings, get involved because I know you're not going to be able to see all of 4,500 apartments. You're not, and some of these apartments you can maybe make a deal with, especially if they're being rented out by the owner. This is where an agent or professional can help you out. Okay, active listed price $4,602. Okay, immediate listing price you see is $4,100, and the price drops is where you're going to do the most of your negotiation. So you want to make sure that you see if there's a price drop there or not. $1,372. That's going to make a break. And you take the price drop and the days on the market, then that's where your negotiation power can be. Okay. There's also incentives in certain buildings that, they'll pay, let's say you do a 13, 14 month lease, they'll pay 2 months. You know, there's incentives out there for the tenant and for brokerages as well to get, just to get somebody in there. And this is a value that some people don't understand. Why? So why they going in paying full price and even extra? They play on desperation sometimes. So you got to take that in consideration. Let's go into the next slide. Come on, come on. This one is in Queens, I believe. I do a lot right here. Yep, Queens. Okay, first number, the amount rented, $515. I just dealt with somebody I was working with. They were able to rent out their apartment. Congratulations to them. I can't get to my. Can I do it? Let me see. Not that one. There we go. That's the one. Yeah, there you go. The new listings, 819. Active listings, 1648, 1,648. Active listing price was $3,993. This is in Queens for the 1 bedroom. Active listed price. Okay, and the median listing price $3,750. So it's about maybe $200 less, and then the amount of rent drops is 964. People will put a higher number out just to see who bites. And say again, this is where the demand is, where the awareness is, the amount of amenities are available, location, 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 as they say all the time, and then you know, transportation as well. People want to be able to get right on and off the train or close to a bus, and they definitely don't want to be in. And Queens is interesting. You don't want to be near any flood zones or big snow deposit areas. Okay, when the snow really gets up there 4 feet, just because you're in the dip. Another thing is basement apartments. It could be a good thing, and it has its pros and its cons. It all depends on the lifestyle that you're living, and I would definitely say get renters insurance. I think everybody should get renters insurance, just in case. Okay, but these are the numbers right here: 515 rented, um, and 1,648 active listings. They're active, so get in touch quickly. Okay, the next one, we're in Manhattan. We're in Manhattan. As you see, 3,180 are rented. Okay, the new listings, 4,099. 4,099. This is all the whole Manhattan, whole 11 miles. Okay, um, 8,770 are active. But this is why. This is why. First of all, you know, the explosion of residential buildings in Manhattan play a key role. They were meant to really house a great deal of New Yorkers. The problem is that price. The problem is that price, and it's going to be hard to get out of this. The salaries that we make are not keeping up with the demand of the price, the value. I won't even say value. I would say the price, because you're going to see right under it how many rent drops are there. Okay, so we're talking about um, the average listing price at $6,315 for a 1 bedroom. Yikes! Yikes! And anybody that knows and know, that's a hard pill to swallow. That's basically the whole check gone. Um, well, not for everybody. Let me be clear. There are a lot of people making great amount of money. I think the average salary in New York right now is at 74,000, which is higher than the median um, salary gained in America, which is at 51 to 60,000 a year. Okay, and we're being kind of generous with these numbers, but it's around that. You know, most people are not making 80 to 90,000 dollars. It takes specialization or a high value um, or a high. It takes a high level of business in your entrepreneurship that's going to net you that money at the end of the day. But not a lot of people is doing this. Okay, you can do the numbers yourself, Google it yourself. Um, and it causes for these disruptions because in New York, you got to make 40 times the rent. So, I mean, $2,000 apartment, you can make $80,000, plus. It's like, how does that work? Yeah. Okay. And then we see the other number that right there. The median, let's say number $4,995. The rent drops. This is where it's important. This is where your negotiations come in. This is where finding these off market listings. This is where knowing owners that are doing the renting. This is where you know, um, all these factors, days on the market takes place, negotiating power, having a good packet, um, and even if you have a guarantor, all this right there, this number right here, 8,000. I want to make sure $863. That's big. That's your negotiation. Negotiation power is right in there. And we want to be able to tackle that number and the active listings number and get you as many options as possible. So now it all comes down to you. It all comes down to you. Uh, how much you can afford? What are you willing to have to, increase your quality of life and lifestyle, you don't want to have to give anything up, of course. So you definitely want something that's going to be as close as possible to your preferences. This is why talking to somebody works. Finding out exactly what you want to do. You're going to be waking up to this place uh, for a good amount of your life. So you want to make sure you take this thing seriously. All right. That's the end of that. I have a couple things to transition to as far as in the video, but I want to make sure that renting is not always your only option. You say, what do you mean by that? There's the co-op option and there's the condo option. There's also the single family home option. And I'm gonna do a separate video for my homeowners and property owners out there, so they can understand what's the climate out here as well. And we're in the second week of November, and we're at approximately 6.54 on a 30-year mortgage. They're trying to push this 50-year mortgage thing. I want you to, do your Googles, type on the internet and find out what that is about. 50-year mortgage, talking about a longer span of debt. Unless you can get all the money up at a small amount of time as possible, you're going to have this continuing interest rate, and you'll be paying more interest than the principal. It's interesting. I won't know how far they're going to get to where you in that plan where you get to the ARM, the adjustable ratio mortgage, but yeah, that sound like a big thing. It's a big dynamic to work with. Okay, moving on. I have a couple of videos to play so you can understand what is offered when it's time to. I hope this thing is together. All right. What is not this one? Hold on. Because I do a lot. Here we go.
So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to approve you for the.
All right, here we go. This is a nice little clip. I think I played this once before. The person is coming in and they're feeling that they're qualified for an apartment, but they actually didn't because of some of the criteria that was requested. And this is during the sit down. And it's going to be an interesting twist. I got another video to play right after this. This gives you another option. And, pardon any of the foul language that the young man will speak in the next video, but it makes sense, and it makes sense because when you buy a home, when you buy a condominium, you're drawing equity. The co-op, it's shares that you're dealing with. So, you have a different, a different advantage in your ownership than you do just renting. And there's nothing wrong with renting, but we're also getting pushed into a renting culture across the nation because a lot of single family homes were bought out. And of course, the numbers that are given for the values of these homes have been astronomical at best. And until those numbers come down, there's always going to be some contention there. All right. But most importantly, as a vehicle for a line of credit, there's nothing been better than a home, owning your own home. So here we go.
You're just short of the 3 times the amount of the rent that is required. So I'm sorry about that. I won't be able to approve you. Okay. Just curiosity. Do most people that come here make $7,500 a month? I think most people have multiple income sources. So, they have roommates or their spouse or just other types of income. I don't.
Roommates are big. Roommates don't take that out of your wheelbarrow yet. Don't take that out of your wheelhouse. Pardon, your wheelhouse yet. That could be beneficial. But go on.
I don't think that any one person makes the $7,500 in this community. Okay, so it'll be impossible for a single person to get an apartment, is what you're telling me. I don't know that it'll be impossible, But it'll be a little challenging for a single income that's not over 90,000 a year to qualify for an apartment.
Wow.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. Wait, don't go yet. I might have another option for you. What other option could you possibly have? So I don't know if you've actually ever considered buying, but when I ran your credit for the approval for the apartment, while we couldn't approve it for the apartment, it does look like I'm able to pre-approve you for $350,000 towards a house. Okay. How much would the mortgage be? Just out of curiosity. I would, of course, have to run the numbers and look at your debt to income ratio, but I would say give or take about $2,800 a month. So you won't approve me for a $2,500 rental payment, but you'll pre-approve me for a $350,000 loan on a house that would have a $2,800 mortgage? Please explain to me how that makes sense. I wish I could. It doesn't exactly make sense. I wouldn't know how to explain
It doesn't exactly make sense. I got to do this one. Hold on, come on.
it to you in a way that wouldn't also confuse me. But what I'm assuming is that because the house itself is collateral, there's really no downside, because if we have to do a foreclosure, we get the house back. Yeah, but when people are renting, you can do the eviction process, which is essentially the same as the foreclosure. So you still get your property back for non-payment. So that explanation makes no sense. You're absolutely right. But I wouldn't know how to explain it to you in a way that, again, wouldn't confuse me while I'm trying to explain it.
Equity. That's as best as that's as good as you're going to get. Equity. You get equity.
So, if you want to get started on the process, we could get you approved in a few days. I'm going to go figure out how this makes sense, but thank you so much for your time.
That's an interesting video right there. Very interesting. It speaks a lot. It speaks to the volume of
these motherfuckers are gonna end up owning.
All right, and this one right here is the follow up to it, and he's very adamant about this point of buying homes, because it has been the reality. These homes get swept up by these people with large investment portfolios, and there's nothing left for the working people but to rent. That's a terrible position to be in. Okay, and that's why if you do have that option, or if you do decide to get into that mentality, because there's a lot of things that come, that comes with being a homeowner. We get it. There's a lot of responsibility that you have to consider, and if it's going to be conducive to your lifestyle. Yet, like I said, that equity that gets built up is a plus. Okay, and even if you're, looking to live in and, get a tenant as well, if you got enough room, that becomes a plus. It's another vehicle for income, and you can work on, getting your rental property established. They said get 2 or 3 rental properties, you could buy your dream home. There's a lot to go with it, but that type of methodology has been proven, and it can work well in your benefit if you're willing to do a little extra elbow grease. But we get it, people rent so they don't have to shovel the snow themselves, and, take care of the heavy maintenance around the facility and or around the premises. And, we get it. It's a New York thing.
60% plus of affordable housing within the next 10 years. And why do you think that all the narrative between the media saying you're better off renting and not owning, why do you think that is? Everything today is on a subscription model. You can never buy anything anymore. And guess what? These big corporations are buying up affordable housing like there's no tomorrow. I shouldn't even be saying this because I'm partners with some of these companies and I see what they do. If I put out $100 million and $90 million of projects being sold to those companies or their fucking proxies, I'm boots on the fucking ground. You have probably maybe 5 to 10 years to buy a house, or else you're probably gonna be renting from a big motherfucking corporation for the rest of your life. So if you want to be part of the solution to stop this from happening, from these motherfuckers buying everything up, please do me a favor and go out there and buy a fucking house.
Okay. All right. There was a lot. There's a lot right there, man. Listen, I'm not going to agree or disagree with him. It's an option that you have to choose with the numbers that you have in your possession and the lifestyle that you want to live with. Um, a I'm just here to be a guide. If you decide to go to that point, I'm here to help you as well. If you want to get into your next rental property and have a little bit more, um, more options available, I'm willing to search and make sure that you get those options out there so you can decide which one would be the best one for you. Like I said, you'll be waking up every day in this new place that you want to call home, and that is a very important decision that it won't take lightly of. You know what I'm saying? But it's best to have all of the information available so you can make the most educated decision. My name is C, and this is the Sunspot Living channel. Like, comment, subscribe. I will read as much as possible on it. We're doing good in the Instagram. I'm glad y'all liked those couple of clips that I put up there. I will be doing more, and you know, use the keys of communication to open doors to better opportunities. Be well.